In April 1980, Peggy Mayden returned home in Biloxi after a quiet evening with friends and was never seen again. Signs of a violent struggle were found inside her house. Her car was abandoned miles away, and decades later, the case remains unsolved. Marguerite Peggy Mayden was born on November 22, 1919. In 1968, she moved to Biloxi, Mississippi, with her husband, retired Air Force Colonel James E. Mayden. The couple settled on Hickory Hill Circle in a house overlooking the sun-kissed country club golf course. Although she had not previously lived in Biloxi, Peggy already had personal ties to the area. Her mother, maternal grandmother, and a brother were buried in cemeteries there, giving the location lasting family significance. Peggy developed a visible presence in the local golfing community. She was an enthusiastic amateur golfer who participated in state tournaments throughout the 1960s and 1970s. Her involvement brought recognition in newspapers across Mississippi, where reports noted both her participation and tournament successes. Golf became a central part of her routine, providing both recreation and social connection within Biloxi. Beyond playing competitively, Peggy contributed to the social life of the sun-kissed country club. She served as president of the club's auxiliary and regularly organized gatherings and social events for members, neighbors, and friends. These activities helped strengthen her relationships within the community and kept her actively involved in club affairs. Her consistent participation made her a familiar figure among local golfers and residents associated with the country club. In 1976, James E. Mayden died at the age of 63. After his death, Peggy remained in their Hickory Hills Circle home overlooking the golf course. She continued living there alone, maintaining the same surroundings and routines that had defined her life during her marriage. The house remained closely tied to her daily activities and social connections. Peggy was not entirely alone during these years. She kept a pit bull named Macho, described as her loyal companion. The dog stayed with her at the residence after her husband's passing. By the late 1970s, Peggy's life in Biloxi reflected continuity shaped by familiar community ties, steady involvement in amateur golf, and ongoing residence in the home she had shared with her husband. Friends and neighbors continued seeing her at club activities and local gatherings regularly. On April 30, 1980, Peggy Mayden spent part of the afternoon at the home of a next-door neighbor in Biloxi. Friends gathered there for cocktails and conversation, and she remained with them for several hours. At approximately 7:15 p.m., Peggy excused herself, explaining that she intended to return home and make a hamburger for dinner. Nothing unusual was reported during the visit, and those present later recalled it as a routine social evening. This moment would become the last confirmed sighting of her. The following day passed without any contact from Peggy, something neighbors began to notice because of her regular presence in the community. By Friday, May 2nd, after 2 days without seeing or hearing from her, neighbor Mona McCowan decided to check on her directly. When she arrived at Peggy's residence on Hickory Hill Circle and entered the home, she encountered signs suggesting something was wrong and contacted authorities. Investigators entering the house documented evidence indicating a violent struggle. Blood was smeared across the kitchen floor and cabinets, and one cabinet showed cracking that contained both blood and strands of blonde hair. A blood trail extended from the kitchen through the dining room and living area into a bathroom before looping back toward the kitchen. Some portions of the scene appeared partially wiped, suggesting an attempted cleanup, though substantial blood remained visible. There were no clear signs of forced entry, and investigators did not report obvious valuables missing from the home. Peggy herself was not present. Her pit bull Macho was also gone, along with her white 1974 Buick Riviera. The combined absence of Peggy, her dog, and her vehicle led investigators to suspect foul play from the beginning. Early investigative attention focused on documenting the physical evidence and reconstructing Peggy's last known movements while attempting to determine what had occurred inside the residence. Shortly after Peggy Mayden's disappearance, investigators focused on locating her missing white 1974 Buick Riviera. The vehicle was eventually discovered abandoned in the parking lot of a Holiday Inn in Biloxi Beach, several miles south of her home on Hickory Hill Circle. An off-duty sheriff's deputy, working as a hotel security guard, reported seeing a white male park the car during the early morning hours and walk away alone. The witness estimated the man to be between 25 and 30 years old, about 6 feet tall, weighing roughly 165 pounds, with medium-length brown hair parted in the middle. He was described as wearing a dark shirt, trousers, and sandals. Authorities conducted a detailed examination of the vehicle after its discovery. Inside the trunk, investigators found blood along with dog hairs. The wiring connected to the tail lights appeared loose and partially disconnected. Based on this observation, authorities considered the possibility that Peggy might have been alive when placed inside the trunk and may have tried to pull the wires loose in an attempt to attract attention. The car itself did not show signs suggesting theft as a motive, since it had simply been left in a public motel parking area. Around the same period, another unusual detail became part of the investigative timeline. During the early morning hours following Peggy's disappearance, a collect telephone call was placed from a pay phone in Florida to Peggy's residence. The call was answered, but investigators were unable to determine the identity of the caller or the person who picked up the phone. These developments added complexity to the investigation. Witness observations, physical evidence from the vehicle, and the unexplained phone call provided possible leads. Yet none produced definitive answers about Peggy Mayden's whereabouts or what had happened to her during that period. Following confirmation of Peggy Mayden's disappearance, authorities organized extensive search operations throughout Biloxi and surrounding coastal areas. Local police coordinated ground teams, canine units, aerial support, and marine resources to examine locations where evidence or remains might be found. A Mississippi Highway Patrol helicopter assisted with aerial observation, while boats from nearby departments searched creeks, bayous, and connected waterways. Civil defense crews conducted dragging operations in Back Bay as investigators pursued every available lead connected to her disappearance. Investigators focused particular attention near the Pops Ferry Bridge, an area authorities believed a possible abductor might have crossed while moving south from Peggy's home on Hickory Hill Circle. Divers entered surrounding waters, hoping to uncover physical evidence. Despite repeated efforts, these searches did not produce confirmed findings linked directly to Peggy. Several months later, skeletal remains discovered in a wooded area northwest of the disappearance site were examined by authorities, but they were determined to belong to a deceased male and were not connected to Peggy's case. About a week after Peggy disappeared, her pit bull Macho was located alive in the Turkey Creek area near Gulfport. The dog had appeared at her residence, where the homeowner secured it outside after hearing news reports about Peggy's disappearance. Authorities retrieved the dog, and Macho was later reunited with Peggy's brother Charles, who moved into her home following her disappearance. Peggy's family also offered financial incentives in hopes of generating information. A reward of $25,000 was announced for details leading to her safe return, along with an additional $10,000 for information identifying whoever was responsible. Despite sustained investigative activity, coordinated searches, and public appeals for information, no conclusive evidence emerged clarifying Peggy Mayden's whereabouts or the circumstances surrounding her disappearance. In the years following Peggy Mayden's disappearance, investigators explored possible connections between her case and organized crime activity along the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Shortly after she vanished, Mafia associate Steve Romano was arrested in Florida during a drug deal. Authorities reported that Romano had 2 telephone numbers in his possession, one belonging to Peggy and another linked to a Biloxi address associated with Dixie Mafia trafficker DJ Venus 3. These discoveries prompted additional investigative attention, although no direct charges connected to Peggy's disappearance resulted from this information. Further developments occurred in 1983 when Venus was arrested along with several others, including Harrison County Sheriff Lyra Hobbs, while they waited in a rural area for an illegal airdrop. Among those detained was John Higgins, who lived at the Hopkins Boulevard residence, previously associated with investigative leads. Authorities also examined information involving another Dixie Mafia figure, Ricky Red Brawley. A Holiday Inn security guard identified Brawley as the man seen leaving Peggy's abandoned car, and a composite sketch based on the witness description reportedly matched his photograph. Before investigators could question him regarding Peggy's disappearance, Brawley was shot and killed by FBI agents during an armed robbery incident in Arkansas. Investigators later stated they believed Brawley and associates may have gone to Peggy's home searching for a man she knew who allegedly had connections to drug smugglers. Police never publicly identified that individual, citing insufficient evidence. Peggy Mayden was 60 years old when she disappeared. She was described as 5 feet 3 inches tall, weighing about 125 pounds, with blonde hair and green eyes. No arrests were made. No confirmed motive was established, and the circumstances surrounding her disappearance remain unresolved.